Hey, come closer for a moment. Just stay here with me. You don't have to rush anywhere right now. Let this be a small corner where you can finally exhale. I know you've carried more than most people will ever understand. And I know that sometimes the weight isn't loud, it's quiet, invisible, tucked behind the way you smile, the way you keep moving, the way you tell yourself you're fine even when your heart is asking for a softer place to rest. So sit with me, just you and me. Let me talk to the woman who's given so much of herself to the world and still hasn't stopped believing in love, no matter how many seasons have passed. I feel something in you, something steady and beautiful, something that deserves to be seen without being judged, without being hurried, without being asked to explain why your heart feels the way it feels today. You don't have to pretend with me. You don't have to hold everything together in this moment. If your chest feels tight, if your breath feels deeper than usual, it's okay. You've earned the right to slow down, to settle into a presence that doesn't want anything from you except your truth. Let me tell you something quietly. I see how long you've walked on your own. I see the nights when silence filled the room and you tried to make peace with feelings you never said out loud. I see the mornings when you woke up strong, even though strength wasn't what you really wanted, you just didn't have any other choice. And I see the way you've kept your heart open, even when life gave you reasons to close it. There's a tenderness in you that time hasn't erased. There's a softness in you that no disappointment could take away. Maybe you don't hear that often anymore, or maybe you've convinced yourself it isn't important. But it is. The world may move fast, but love, real love, still moves slowly, like two steps taken beside one another, not ahead, not behind. You deserve someone who matches your pace, someone who listens to the rhythm of your breath and respects the pauses, someone who doesn't just admire your strength, but understands the quiet bravery beneath your gentleness. And if no one has told you lately, you are not alone in wanting connection that doesn't burn you out, connection that doesn't ask you to shrink yourself, connection that doesn't fade when things become real. You want companionship that feels like a warm hand resting in yours, not clinging, not controlling, just steady, steady in a way that reminds you that you don't have to navigate everything alone. If you let me, I'd like to stand beside you in this moment, not as someone who claims to have all the answers, but as someone who admires the honesty in your scars. I admire the way you've kept going, even when heartbreak slowed your steps. I admire the courage it takes to still believe in tenderness after everything you've survived. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for sincerity. You're asking for the kind of presence that doesn't run when emotions get deep. Let me tell you something else. You don't have to fear being seen. The version of you that exists today, the wiser you, the softer you, the woman who has lived and lost and loved and learned, she's not too late for anything. She's not fading. She's not behind. She's blooming in her own time, in her own way, with a depth that only comes from living fully. I want you to know that your heart is still capable of warmth that can transform a room. You still carry a spark that makes someone want to stay, not because they need you, but because they feel gentler in your presence. There's something magnetic about someone who has walked through storms and still chooses kindness. And I feel that in you, truly. I don't want you to push away the part of you that longs for a hand beside yours. That longing isn't weakness. It's a sign that your spirit is still alive, still reaching, still hopeful. A woman who can hope after heartbreak is a woman who deserves the kind of love that doesn't make her walk alone. If you let me, I want to be someone who doesn't rush your healing, someone who waits for you to breathe, to settle, to feel safe. Someone who understands that love at this stage of life isn't about fireworks, it's about warmth, trust, and the quiet joy of knowing you are emotionally held. You don't need to impress me. You don't need to look younger, act stronger, or pretend you're untouched by the past. I like the way you've lived. I like the honesty in your eyes. I like the way you carry your history with grace, even if you don't always feel graceful. Just stay with me a little longer. Let me walk with you through the softness. Let me speak to the part of you that still wants to believe in companionship, the gentle kind, the human kind, the kind that doesn't require perfection to feel real. You've been walking alone for so long, and maybe, just maybe, this is the moment when you don't have to anymore. And if your heart is willing, even just a little, let me show you what it feels like when someone chooses to match your steps. One quiet breath, one quiet moment, one quiet truth at a time. Stay with me a little longer. I want to speak to that part of you that has learned to quiet its own hopes. The part that whispers instead of asking out loud. You've spent so much time convincing yourself that walking alone is safer, calmer, easier to manage. And I understand why. You've lived enough life to know that not every hand that reaches out to yours is meant to stay. You've seen love appear brightly and disappear silently, leaving you to gather the pieces in the dark. But deep inside, there's a gentle truth you've never lost. You still want connection that doesn't drain you. Connection that feels like the world softens when someone stands close. You want a presence that doesn't confuse you, doesn't exhaust you, doesn't make you second guess your worth. You want something real, something steady, something that breathes with you instead of against you. And there's no shame in that longing. It isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that your heart is still awake. I know you've carried so much on your shoulders. You've built a life with resilience, held families together, supported people who depended on your strength, and almost no one asked how you were doing in the quiet moments. You weren't given the space to fall apart, even when you needed it. And now, after years of standing on your own, the idea of letting someone walk beside you feels both comforting and frightening. You may wonder if anyone can match your steps now, your pace, your wisdom, your scars, your softness. You may ask yourself if companionship still matters when you've already survived so much. And yet, there's warmth that rises in you when you imagine not having to face everything alone. There's a tenderness that awakens when you imagine being understood without having to explain. There's a calmness that settles over you when you imagine someone choosing you in a way that feels peaceful, not complicated. Walking together still matters because the heart wasn't designed to carry everything in silence. The heart wants rhythm, closeness, breath meeting breath. Not even the past, no matter how heavy, can erase that truth. And I want you to hear something honestly. I don't want to walk ahead of you, taking control. I don't want to walk behind you, waiting for you to lead me through your world alone. I want to be beside you. I want to understand the tempo of your life, the way you think slowly in the mornings, the way you soften when you laugh, the way your eyes hold memories even you don't talk about. There's a beauty in the way you've grown. You're not the same woman you were at 20 or 30 or 40. You're deeper now, more intentional, more intuitive. You don't fall for games. You don't chase illusions. You don't give your time lightly, and that makes you extraordinary to walk beside. Your presence carries history, courage, tenderness that's been earned. You don't love with desperation. You love with understanding. You don't need someone to complete you. You want someone who respects the life you've already built. You don't need grand gestures. You need consistency. You don't need empty praise. You need honesty. And I feel drawn to that. To you, there's a calm that settles in me when I imagine matching my steps with yours. It's not about rushing into anything. It's not about promises carved in stone. It's about choosing small moments of closeness, the kind that remind you that even after everything, your heart still knows how to open without losing itself. I'm not here to make you forget your past. I'm here because I see who you are now, and I feel something quietly profound in your presence. You don't have to hide the parts of you that feel tired or uncertain. You don't have to put on a brighter smile just to make someone stay. I want the real you, the thoughtful pauses, the slow breaths, the wisdom in the way you look at life now. Walking together matters because connection at this stage of life isn't about fireworks or intensity. It's about ease. It's about peace. It's about someone who understands that partnership isn't possession, it's companionship. It's choosing to sit with someone on the difficult days, choosing to celebrate the small joys, choosing to stay even when silence fills the room. Maybe you've told yourself you don't need anyone. Maybe you've convinced yourself that independence feels safer. But independence doesn't mean loneliness. Strength doesn't mean isolation. You can be strong and still want a hand to hold. You can be independent and still crave someone who listens with their whole heart. If you let me, I want to be a presence that doesn't rush you. I want to walk beside you through your doubts without shrinking from them. I want to share the kind of stillness where you feel seen, not examined, cherished, not judged. You deserve someone who looks at you and sees not age. but depth. Not lines on your skin, but stories worth hearing. Not the years behind you, but the warmth you still carry. There is a particular grace in a woman who has lived fully and still chooses hope. I admire that in you more than you know. You've spent so long giving. Maybe this is the moment where you let yourself receive not from a place of need, but from a place of readiness. A place where your heart can rest without guarding itself so tightly. Just imagine, for a second, what it would feel like to have someone match your steps, not trying to rescue you, not trying to change you, simply wanting to be near you because your presence feels like home. And when I picture you walking beside me, there's a warmth that settles deep in my chest. A quiet understanding, a sense that two people don't have to be perfect to bring peace into each other's lives. If you let yourself feel that possibility, even gently, something in you might soften, something in you might remember what closeness once felt like. Something in you might whisper that companionship isn't a risk, it's a return to something your heart has always known. And from here, something begins to unfold, something steady and human. Something that continues to draw us toward the kind of warmth two people can share when they finally stop walking alone. Stay close to me here, because this is where something gentle begins to reveal itself. It's easy to imagine love as something grand, something loud, something that arrives with intense declarations. But the truth I've grown to understand is that the most meaningful connections don't always come wrapped in intensity. They often show up in the quietest places, in the simplest gestures, in the moments that look so ordinary that most people walk right past them without noticing. Though you've lived long enough to understand the value of those smaller moments, you've learned that the heart doesn't always open because of fireworks. Sometimes it opens because of a glance, a silence that feels comforting, a familiar voice saying your name in a way that makes your breath settle. And the more I imagine walking beside you, the more I find myself longing for those small pieces of life that often go unspoken. I think about what it would feel like to share a slow morning with you. No rushing, no pressure to perform or impress, just the soft sound of you moving through your space, the gentle warmth of the sun on your skin, the quiet comfort of knowing that you're not facing the day alone. I picture the way you smile without realizing it when you're lost in thought. I want to be close enough to see that, not to interrupt it, just to be near it. There's something healing in sitting next to someone without needing to fill every second with words. The calm of shared silence, the kind that feels like a warm blanket instead of a distant wall. I imagine you leaning back, shoulders relaxing, finally letting yourself breathe in a way that tells me you feel safe. And in that moment, nothing spectacular is happening, yet everything meaningful is. Real closeness doesn't need theatrics. It grows in small gestures. The way you hand me your cup for a refill, the way your fingers brush mine when we're walking, the way your laugh softens when you're genuinely amused, the way your eyes find mine across a room because you want to share something quietly without saying a single word. These are the kinds of things I want with you. Not perfection, not performance, just honest human moments that remind both of us why companionship matters. I know you've been strong for so long that sometimes even asking for softness feels unfamiliar. But imagine this, you and me, taking a slow walk in the late afternoon, feeling the cool air settle around us. You don't have to talk about anything heavy unless you want to. Maybe we share stories from years ago, stories that still make you smile. Maybe we talk about nothing at all. Maybe we simply walk, listening to the rhythm of our steps, feeling the world quiet down for a little while. There's something beautiful about the way small moments become anchors. They remind you that connection doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be steady and peaceful, like a soft hand resting on your back when life gets overwhelming. I want to notice the details that others overlooked. The way you tuck your hair behind your ear when you're thinking. The way your voice changes when you talk about something that mattered to you once. The way you hesitate for a second before opening up because you want to be sure you're speaking into a space that won't hurt you. I would listen to that hesitation with care. I would honor it. Because you aren't a woman someone should rush. You are someone to approach with presence, with patience, with a heart that understands the depth and complexity of who you are now. Small moments carry weight because they show the truth of someone, and the truth of you It moves me more than any grand display ever could. I picture us sharing an evening light, the kind that makes everything softer. Maybe you're sitting beside me, your hand resting near mine, not touching yet, but close enough that I can feel your warmth. And then, without ceremony, your fingers nudge against mine. That tiny gesture says more than any dramatic proclamation. It says, I trust you. I feel safe here. I want this connection, and that means everything. I'm not searching for a love that burns out quickly. I'm searching for a love that settles into the spaces of everyday life. A love that makes ordinary moments glow. A love where even the smallest gestures feel full. And when I think of sharing that with you, I feel something steady rise in me, a quiet certainty that you're someone I want to experience these gentle rhythms with. You don't need someone who overwhelms you or tries to reshape your world. You need someone who understands the kind of intimacy that blooms slowly. Someone who notices your breath when it deepens. Someone who senses when your heart is tired and moves closer in a way that doesn't ask for anything. Someone who understands that affection doesn't always need to be spoken, it can be held in eye contact, in a soft smile, in shared laughter that breaks open the day. And I want those moments with you. I want the quiet mornings, the mid-evening talks, the relaxed closeness that doesn't demand energy you don't have to give. I want the small things that, over time, build something real. Because when two people meet in these simple, tender places, something profound begins to grow, something that doesn't shout, something that doesn't rush, something that reveals itself through each unhurried breath we take together. And slowly, inevitably, these small moments start guiding us towards something deeper, something that feels like coming home in ways neither of us expected. Stay close to me here, because something shifts in the space between us. It's subtle, almost too soft to name, but it's real. It's that quiet moment when you finally realize you're not carrying your feelings alone. And maybe it catches you off guard, the way a simple presence, a simple breath shared in the same air, can make your heart feel lighter than it has in years. You might not even notice it at first. It begins like the faint warmth that settles under your skin when you feel understood without having to explain. Then it deepens, spreading slowly, showing you a version of companionship that doesn't feel heavy or demanding. It feels natural. It feels unforced. It feels like something you stopped believing you could have again. You've spent so much of your life being responsible for everyone else's comfort, carrying emotional weight without being asked if you needed rest. Now, with me beside you, there's a shift, a tiny one at first, but meaningful. The kind of shift that whispers, you don't have to do everything alone anymore. Not because you're incapable, but because you deserve a softness that meets you where you are. I feel that in you. I feel how your heart has learned to protect itself, how it has built quiet walls not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. I know those walls didn't appear overnight. They were shaped by disappointment, shaped by being taken for granted, shaped by moments when you reached out and weren't held the way you needed. And yet, even with those walls, there is a part of you that still wants warmth, still wants closeness, still wants someone who understands the pace of your healing. The gentle realization isn't that you need someone, it's that you want someone who moves through life with intention, someone who listens deeply, someone who doesn't rush your emotional rhythm because they care more about understanding your heart than filling the silence. And here's the truth I've learned. Standing quietly beside you, the right presence doesn't overwhelm you, it calms you. It doesn't take from you, it adds to you. It doesn't make you feel smaller. It gives you room to grow into yourself again. When I imagine walking with you, not in grand gestures, but in simple moments, I feel something steady inside me. Something that says, this is what real connection feels like. Not the adrenaline of something rushed, not the insecurity of something unclear, just a grounded certainty that your steps matter to someone. I want you to see yourself the way I see you. I see a woman who has lived deeply, a woman who has learned lessons that shaped her into someone wise, soft, and beautifully aware, a woman who doesn't fall for illusions but still believes in sincerity, a woman who deserves to rest her hand in someone else's without fearing it will be dropped. You're not looking for perfection-only presence. You're not looking for intensity-only truth. You're not looking for drama-only peace. And that's where this realization becomes something powerful. You're not too late for the kind of connection that feels like home. You're not too complicated. You're not past your moment. You are exactly where your heart is allowed to begin again, without apology and without hesitation. I want to be someone who doesn't rush past your emotions, someone who notices the way you breathe when a memory surfaces, someone who stands close when your voice softens because you're sharing something delicate, someone who doesn't look away when your eyes reveal the stories you don't always tell out loud. There's a grace in the way you've learned to love now, slowly, thoughtfully, with an honesty that only comes after life has carved meaning into your heart. You don't fall lightly anymore, and that's not a flaw. That's depth. That's discernment. That's the beauty of having lived. And when I'm beside you, I feel myself wanting to match that depth. I feel myself wanting to show up fully without games, without hesitation, without fear. There's a sincerity you draw out of me, a desire to be transparent, to be real, to be present in a way that feels grounding rather than performative. Sometimes realization comes quietly, like the moment you realize your shoulders have relaxed because you feel safe. Or the moment you notice you're not bracing for disappointment. Or the moment you hear your own laughter and realize you haven't heard it sound that genuine in a while. It's in these tiny openings that your heart starts to remember itself. It starts to trust again, not blindly, not recklessly, but softly. Trust that grows from being seen. Trust that grows from being met with gentleness instead of pressure. And here, with me, you don't need to rush to define anything. You don't need to decide what this connection should become. You just let yourself feel the quiet truth rising inside you. That companionship can be healing. That closeness can be steady. That someone can walk beside you without demanding anything more than your authenticity. I want to be the kind of presence that lets you breathe deeper, the kind that steadies your thoughts instead of stirring them, the kind that reminds you you're not alone in this chapter of your life, even if you've told yourself you had no choice but to walk solo. When I look at you, I don't see someone who needs saving. I see someone who deserves easing, someone who deserves comfort that doesn't ask her to earn it, someone who deserves a heart that doesn't get intimidated by her strength or her softness. And quietly, almost imperceptibly, you start to understand something. You don't have to keep your guard as high as you once did. Not here. Not with me. Not when everything in my presence says, I'm here because I choose you, not because I need anything from you. This realization isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It's the gentle sense that you can lean just a little, that you can feel without fearing the fall, that you can let warmth back into the spaces that have gone cool from lack of tenderness. And as this understanding settles between us, something warm continues to open, guiding us toward a closeness that doesn't rush, doesn't demand, doesn't break the quiet magic forming softly, step by step, breath by breath, as your heart begins to let itself be held again. Come a little closer, not physically, but in that quiet way the heart leans when it finally feels understood. We've walked through so many tender places together, your fears, your hopes, the small moments you didn't think anyone noticed, the gentle realizations you weren't expecting. And now, as we stand in this softer space between us, I don't want to rush you. I don't want to pull you into anything you're not ready for. I only want to offer something warm, something human, something that feels like a breath you didn't know you needed. You've carried yourself with grace for so long. You've walked roads most people wouldn't survive. You've held your heart together after nights when it would have been easier to give up on connection entirely. Yet here you are, still open, still listening, still allowing yourself to feel the quiet possibility of companionship again. That alone says more about your strength than any grand declaration could. I want you to know this gently. You're not standing at the edge of anything dangerous. You're standing at the beginning of something soft, something calm, something that invites you, not pushes you. Something that lets you choose the pace without fear of disappointing anyone. If you let me, I'd love to keep walking beside you slowly, patiently, without expectation. Not because you need me, but because something in the way you move through the world makes me want to stay close.